She's here to give our welcome note tonight and encourage equity in our school district. Please give a warm welcome to Dr. Kim. Oh, it's falling. You got it? It's like falling. I don't know.
Good evening, everyone. It is so wonderful to return to my alma mater. I grew up right across the street at 57th Street in Beck Lane. And when I first moved here, Greenway was a dirt road and Horizon High School wasn't even built yet. And if you would have told me then that I would be standing up here speaking to our future female women leaders, I wouldn't even believe it. I wouldn't even believe it. I had the opportunity to grow up in the Paradise Valley School District, and I loved it so much. It was the only place I wanted to come back and begin my teaching career. And now my own child attends the school, and I have the honor of watching over the elementary schools and helping to support and inspire our teachers and principals who just mean the world to me. So I'm really honored to be here tonight. Our superintendent, Dr. Jim Lee, gave all of us a challenge, an equity challenge. He asked all of us in the district to use an equity lens to look at our current practices, what we do every day in our departments, in our schools, and in our daily lives, and what could we do to be more inclusive and supportive of all students. We're here for the kids, and we want to treat every student as if they were our own and provide multiple opportunities. And I think that's a real strength of our district, that there's so many different unique programs and opportunities for all students. So tonight's really a celebration about the technology department's journey. Mr. Jeff Billings, the director of technology, and Ms. Vicki Raymond in the technology and community education department really took this challenge to heart, and all year have been planning inspiring events for our young women. So we're here tonight to celebrate that and to really think about our future. Many of the young women in this audience today are going to have jobs and careers that aren't even invented yet. That's how fast everything is moving in regards to technology. So we want young women to be inspired to dream and take that challenge and go that new path and innovate. And that's what tonight is about, to inspire you. I don't know about you, but I love a good story. And so we have 8 amazing women tonight that are going to share their personal story, their leadership journey. And hopefully someone in the audience tonight will be inspired in a way that they take some risks, take a challenge, a new opportunity, and maybe someday you can come back and speak to the next group of women, because we all have to pay it forward for each other. And that's what the Paradise Valley community is about. So I hope you help us embrace this equity challenge that the technology department has truly thrown all their effort behind. And they even have a cool acronym, which, you know, Mr. Billings always has to come up with the cool acronym. So it's WIT, Women Information Technology, and it even has a cool logo. I don't know if you saw it on the program. I was really impressed. So I just want to thank you for inviting me here tonight. It's such an honor to be here and to get to meet some of these lovely young women who are not only the future of our district, but the future of our community. So thank you.
Hello and good evening. My name is Emily Moore and I go to school here. I'm a junior. Today I'll be introducing Britton Picciolini, the Regional Director for Google Education. As of now, she lives in Chicago, but originally she lived here in Arizona, so she is very excited to be here with us tonight. Her first 13 years at Google were in the advertising side, working with customers like Target, Best Buy, Sears, and JCPenney. But now her day job is helping K-12 schools in 13 states use Google tools to transform the classroom. She loves traveling and teaching photography for Citizen Schools, where she's on the Illinois Executive Board. Tonight, Britton will be sharing with us about passion. Please welcome her to the stage.
Good evening, everyone. So honored to be here with you today. Perfect. So I want to talk a little bit about passion. So have you ever had one of those moments where you feel like you've learned something new or you've experienced something new and your world just expands a little bit? It just feels like your world gets bigger because you've just learned something that you never knew before. So I want to tell you about two of those moments that I had. About 5 years ago, working at Google, a nonprofit came to our office, and they were looking for citizen teachers to come and teach anything to a group of middle school students in the south side of Chicago, very low-income neighborhood. And so I'm sitting through this program, and I'm listening to them, and I'm listening to their ask, and they want you to come and teach for 10 weeks, once a week for 10 weeks. And I thought, do I know 10 weeks worth of anything to teach? And so I thought about it for a little bit, and I have a photography degree from Arizona State, and I thought, well, maybe I could teach photography. And then I thought, okay, it's middle schoolers. I could probably teach 10 weeks worth of photography to middle schoolers. So I signed up. And I was able to share my passion for photography with these students. I was showing them how to take pictures on a tablet. We were using Google Photos. They were learning about composition and design, and it was amazing. And the best way that I've been able to describe it to people is that my DNA just kind of changed. I just knew that I wanted to work in education in some way moving forward. So I joined the board for Citizen Schools and continued to teach. And I started to look internally at Google to see if there was anything I could do within education there. And sadly, because I was based in Chicago, there wasn't anything available. All of the positions at that time were either in New York or San Francisco, and I was not going to move because Chicago was my new home. So I just kept looking, and I talked to some people that I knew from other organizations that had moved over to education, and every so often I would just ping them and say, hey, can we grab coffee? I'd love to hear what's going on. And they would always talk with me, and they were always very nice, but there was just nothing going on in Chicago. But I loved my day job. I loved working with large advertisers. I was in charge of $600 million worth of business at Google. Things were good. I was very happy. And then one day at Google I/O, which is our large developer conference, it's a very big conference where we unveil a lot of cool new technology every year. So I'm sitting in my hotel room, which is a place I spend a lot because I travel quite a bit, but I'm watching the live stream of Google I/O. And on stage comes the VP of our new virtual reality division. And he starts talking about Google Expeditions. Now, Google Expeditions is virtual reality field trips. So this is actually being able to go on virtual field trips using virtual reality, using Google Cardboard and phones. And I'm listening to him talk about all of this. And he's talking about how students will be able to go to a place that a bus can't take them, that they'll get exposed to places they would never normally be able to get to in their entire lifetime. And I'm listening to him, and it's technology, and it's imagery, and it's exposure, and it's just all of these things that I love wrapped up into one little package with a red bow. And I get goosebumps as I tell you the story. And I'm sitting there listening, and I'm just in awe. And I was so moved, I sent Clay, his name is Clay Bavor, I sent him an email. I do not know him from Adam. He is a VP at Google, which is very senior, and I'm literally typing him an email as he's walking off stage. And I sent him an email and I said, you've just presented Expeditions at Google I/O. I know it is going to change the lives of students all over the world. For them to be able to experience something that they would never have access to, have the technology in their hands, it's going to be life-altering for them, and I want to be a part of it. I don't know if you have headcount. I don't know if you need someone on a 20% project. All I know is that I want to help. If you can use it, let me know. And he wrote me back pretty quick, which is one of the wonderful things about Google. And he said, that's awesome. We could totally use the help. Talk to this product manager and this program manager. Awesome. So he connected me to them. I said the same thing to them. Expeditions is the coolest thing I have ever seen in my entire life. It is going to change the lives of students everywhere. Let me know how I can help. And they wrote me back and said, yeah, we don't have any headcount. It's all going to engineering. We're super young. But you're in Chicago. Chicago is a very important market for us because it's a largely underserved population, and Chicago public schools could really use the help. So if you are interested in being an ambassador for Google Expeditions in Chicago, we'd love to have you. And I said, done. So they shipped an expeditions kit out to Chicago. I was taking the kit out, being able to show all the cool expeditions. There's now over 600 of them to students, and they were just amazed. So all of a sudden, all of these things that they were learning were leaping literally off the page into their hands in this cardboard. So then the program manager reaches out to me and she says, you know, it's probably good for you to meet the person who oversees the relationship with Chicago Public Schools and does all the sales for Google for Education, and he's based in Austin. You should probably talk to him. His name's Kevin. And I said, great, I would love to talk to Kevin. So we set up a Google Hangout, and I'm talking with Kevin, and I gave him the same story. I would love to work in education. This is exactly what I would love to do. There's nothing available in Chicago, so I'm right now going to be an ambassador for Expeditions here, working with Chicago Public Schools. If there's any help that that you need that I can provide, please let me know. And if any headcount ever opens up, let me know. And he said, I have been to Chicago 22 times in the past year from Austin, and I am putting it in my 2016 plan that we need headcount in Chicago. And I said, you let me know when that position gets approved, because that's my job. So it's been a little over a year now in my new role with Google for Education. I basically did a 180 at Google. I completely changed my direction within the same company, which is so rare, and I feel so lucky. But it was the best decision that I have ever made. For me, paying attention to those moments where I felt this tectonic plate shift and I felt something change within me, I paid attention to that. I listened to what was going on with me. When you physically feel something and have a physical reaction to something in a positive way, it's your heart telling you something. And so for me to be able to follow that path has been amazing. I tell my two boys who are 24 and 22 all the time that your professional direction is a journey, not a destination. I told that to Emily earlier tonight. Every decision that you make is not the last decision that you make, but if you always follow your heart and listen to what your heart is telling you, you will always make the right decisions and follow that passion. Thank you.
Hello, and good evening. My name is Hayden Araza. I'm a sophomore at Paradise Valley High School, and today I'm here to talk to you and introduce to you Miss Daisy Murillo and Riley Wagner. Daisy is currently 17 and finds her biggest inspiration to be her parents and the Google Science Fair, as well as Intel ISF. She'll be going to GCU for bio and forensics this coming year and continues to inspire so many. Miss Riley Wagner is also 17 years old, and her biggest inspiration is definitely her teacher, Miss Mack, who happens to be with us tonight, I believe. She also shared with me a quote that I found really funny and witty and quite inspirational as well. It is, if I can build a robot, then I can make it work. And I believe that that is a really powerful statement to not only women in technology, but people in general, women and men. So thank you very much for letting me introduce both of these lovely ladies to you, and I hope you all enjoy and give them a warm welcome. Thank you.
Hello. Oh. I'll just hold it. So my inspiration started in 7th grade with Miss Mack and Riley Wagner. In 7th grade, I decided to join my robotics team called the Robotic Stingers, and ever since, I haven't stopped being in the field of technology. So in 8th grade, our competition idea was to build a diabetic patient targeted app that would allow you to input your glucose level, and it would output any recommendations in order to maintain it at a healthy level. So for example, if your glucose level or your sugar level was low, it would tell you what to eat, what to do in order to bump it up a little bit to your normal range. Ever since, I've always carried that idea with me. So fast forward 3 years from now, Riley and I decided to compete in a 36-hour hackathon and decided to actually bring the idea to life. During this hackathon, we decided to storyboard the app, we planned it out, we decided what language we wanted to use for the app, and at the end, we decided to use Objective-C, which was a class that Riley had taken just a week before the hackathon. So we were at the competition trying to plan it out, 36 hours, we were locked in a building that we couldn't get out of, and throughout the entire night and day, we were just coding. We decided to name it Sugar Plus, and seeing our app, or seeing the idea that I had in 8th grade in my hands in a phone really inspired me to keep on going and made a big impact on me, and I decided to pursue something in medicine. So right now, that was in middle school, the robotics team, and then in high school, there was another robotics team. So I decided to join because it seemed familiar for me to join something that I already had been in the past. I ran for a leadership position my freshman year, and I became vice president. And then the following year, I decided to apply for an organization called National Center for Women and Information Technology. I had the honor to receive the National Runner-Up Award for Computer Science Aspirations. And then later on, the following year, I decided to join an organization called Future Business Leaders of America. I decided to compete along with one of my classmates on a mobile application competition. The app was meant for the school to alert you on any school events, school lunches, staff and faculty information. It was basically like a calendar for the school. So we competed regionals, and we won first place, and then we went on to state, and we placed, and we qualified for a national event. Ever since, I have always been thinking about technology and how to apply it in any other field that I could bring it with. Because one of my coding instructors this past year told me, wherever you go, you always bring your passion with you. And my passion is technology, and I'm bringing that into medicine. This past December, I decided to get my certification in nursing assistant. And throughout our clinical classes, I saw the facility was it wasn't very proper for the patients, and the healthcare treatment was horrible, and the smell was just not okay. So the only way I knew how to solve that problem was through technology. I decided to create a system that would detect the smell, and it would alert your caregiver whenever the patient had a bowel movement. Right now, I'm in the midst of it, and I'm currently still trying to improve it. But as of now, I'm just doing research at Grand Canyon University, dissecting cadavers, learning about the human anatomy, and hopefully I'll bring in technology into that. Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to talk about some of the same things that she talked about, but just from a different perspective. So in 7th and 8th grade, Daisy and I were part of our school's robotics team, and the competition that we competed in had 3 fundamental components: building a functional robot to complete various challenges, teamwork, and creating an innovative solution to a themed problem. Programming our robot, I found a sense of freedom. We had complete control of a creature of sorts that could move around, grab items, and bring them back to us with specific instructions. We quickly learned that if there was ever a problem with our robot, 9 times out of 10, it's our fault. And we also knew that there was just a bunch of challenges with it, but we knew we could overcome that together. And so after 2 years of this, I got to high school, and I knew I wanted to continue, and I wanted to take things to the next level. And so we joined the first robotics competition, where we have 6 weeks to design, build, and program a robot that can do different tasks each year. In our first year, we found it difficult to even make our robot move without the help of experts. It wasn't until we arrived at competition that we were able to make our robot score any points at all. And we were lucky that it would even drive. But the next year, we recruited mentors, teachers, engineers, technicians, parents, who taught us how an engineering mind works and enabled us to build increasingly successful robots each year. This year, for example, we were able to climb a rope, we picked up and shot balls, and we ended up finishing in 9th place at our regional event at GCU and being the highest scoring all-Arizonan team at the competition. But such success doesn't come without personal development. Our junior year, we participated in a hackathon. It was exciting, but there was attention drawn to us being the only all-female team at there. There were phrases like, gotta increase the girl power, and the only all-girl team. And there's sense of attention drawn to you being a girl in computer science. I got the feeling from those around us that they were trying to provide us with additional support just because we were the only 3 girls in an all-girl hackathon in a group together. This was the impetus for me to start exposing computer science to girls and boys at any age, so that attention wouldn't be drawn to gender, but to gaining new experiences and learning. With this new revelation, I created programs based on Code.org curriculum to encourage each child-turned-coder to feel just as empowered as the next. With more than 50 youth participating in these clubs, they all developed an overall interest in coding. 90% of students surveyed said they improved their knowledge of computer science while in a coding club, and approximately 94% of all surveyed students said they would be interested in continuing to pursue computer science again if given the option. I gave students lasting impression that computer science and computer programming is for everyone, no matter what gender, ethnicity, or socioeconomic background you are. I grew my own knowledge in computer programming when I got the honor of attending the engineering experience at MIT last year. I spent a week in an electrical engineering and computer science course where I worked with a team to create a pedometer for the visually impaired. We used Python to program a Raspberry Pi that recognizes each step a person takes and returns that number of steps audibly with the push of a button. With all the education and innovation that I've received from dedicated individuals destined to make the world a better place, I know that this is a path that I can take as well. Next fall, I'll start school at the University of Arizona in the engineering college. And I hope that both of us serve as some sort of inspiration for you to help change the world. Because honestly, it can be anybody that inspires you and encourages you to harness the capability within yourself to make a difference. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jory, and I'm a senior here at Horizon High School. Tonight, I'm here to introduce you to Shivani Mishra, a former PVUSD student from North Canyon. She's currently a first-year medical student at the University of Arizona, located here in Phoenix. Shivani received her bachelor's in science in neuroscience and cognitive science, as well as minors in biochemistry and public health at U of A in Tucson. She participated in 4 different research labs throughout her undergraduate studies, yes, 4, and they all involved children. Despite receiving multiple honors awards, Shivani is just like the rest of us with her incredible love for goldfish and the color orange. Shivani is here today to talk about resilience, and it's fitting, as her life motto is to be relentlessly optimistic. So let's give it up for Shivani Mishra.
Thank you so much for such a wonderful introduction, Jory. So, hello everyone. Like she said, my name is Shivani Mishra, and I have the incredible opportunity to talk with you all today about the magnificent word resilience. It's a word that really embodies my journey to where I am today. And where that is I'm a 22-year-old first-year medical student. Now with my extremely limited 2 decades on this planet, I can't pretend like I figured out the secret to life or anything. But I have picked up a couple of strategies that I wanted to share with you guys today. Now, this talk is going to be filled with unsolicited advice, so do with that as you may, but you have been warned. I'm going to start with my biggest piece of advice, keep your eyes wide open and your mind wide open to all the incredible opportunities that life is going to throw your way. And don't be afraid to try everything. I don't know how many of you guys have seen Zootopia, but if you haven't seen it, you should. That song that Shakira sings, Try Everything, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm talking about. That's what you need to do. Try absolutely everything. So instead of just superficially telling you, it's called Real Life Stories for a reason, let me give you my story. When I was a freshman in high school, I was shopping at Costco with my dad. And we were pulling out of the parking lot, and I saw this billboard with an adorable baby on it. It had a giant baseball cap and these size, 13 shoes in front of it that were basically as big as the baby. And it was a sign advertising for the March of Dimes. I'd never heard of the organization before, and I didn't really know what it was. But just so happened that the very next day in North Canyon's front lobby, a senior was handing out flyers with that same adorable baby on it. And that's when I first learned about the March of Dimes. It's a nonprofit organization with the mission of improving the health of babies by preventing birth defects, premature birth, and infant mortality. And I was ecstatic. I have been obsessed with kids for as long as I can remember, so finding a club that was this amazingly involved with children was exciting. And I ended up getting really involved. In fact, I got so involved, I joined the State Youth Leadership Council my junior year of high school, which I actually am in charge of now and have flyers with me if anyone's interested in joining. And that ended up getting me on the board of directors for the metropolitan Phoenix area. And with the help of the March of Dimes and a local NGO, I was able to set up an infant mortality prevention campaign in the state of India that my parents are from. It's called Odisha. I speak the language. We were able to talk to women who lived in the slums about the importance of nutrition and taking care of yourself during pregnancy. And this all happened because I got involved with the March of Dimes. And I'm still involved with the March of Dimes. It's been 10 years, and it's kind of shaped my life and taken over everything. And that's where my second bit of advice comes into play. Anything that you do take up, you should pour your whole self into. So when an old man comes up to you and says he's thinking about starting an online tutoring program when you're a senior in high school, you go up to him and you say, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. And all of a sudden, Frost is born. And it has been 10 years, and it sounds like it's going great. But now you're probably all thinking, her word was resilience, and I haven't said anything about that. Well, let me tell you. When you actually pour your whole self into something, you're going to get a lot of pushback from the world. And it's going to be hard to find time to dedicate yourself fully to everything that you do, especially when you follow my first piece of advice, which is to try everything. And so what do you do when you realize you've taken up an opportunity, you've poured yourself into it, and you're not having a good time? So, well, lucky for you, I got another story. When I first went to undergrad, I started as an MCB major. I wanted to go to med school, and I thought that's what everybody did. That's really bad advice. Don't do what everybody did. Do what makes you happy. But nobody told me that. So I was MCB, and I was told to be strong and create my own opportunities and email as many professors as I could about getting involved in research. For those of you who are interested in pursuing research in undergrad, or if you don't know and you just want to try it out, the best advice I ever received was to look up professors who had interests that were similar to mine, read a little bit about their interests, and then just email them. Kind of like what Britton did with the director of Google. Just email them. Let's say, hi, my name is so-and-so. I'm really interested in what you're doing, XYZ. Show that you did, in fact, do your research beforehand and you know what they're talking about, and just ask to meet with them. The worst thing that could possibly happen is that they'll say no, or they'll ignore you, but, whatever. And that's not that bad. It hurts a little bit to get rejected, and that's kind of where the whole resilience comes in. You just got to push through that, okay? When I first started, I sent out 11 emails to professors. I was so excited. I thought I was going to get it. 4 people said no. The rest of them didn't reply, but I got one. I got one reply back. And that one reply was the opportunity to work in a lab that dealt with necrotizing enterocolitis, which is the #1 gastrointestinal disease in kids who were born preterm. So I was ecstatic. I was like, wow, March of Dimes is coming back. I get to do research. And I was really, really, really excited. Until I learned what I was actually doing. And when I got there, I poured my whole self into it. I started doing procedures really quickly. And 6 months later, I took a step back and really looked at what was happening, and I realized I wasn't very happy because my job at this research lab was to stand behind a plastic splatter guard while mixing chemicals into a test tube with baby poop and hand homogenizing it. Like you stick a little spinner in there and it mixed. It was disgusting. I had to figure out, whether I wanted to breathe through my nose and smell the poop or breathe through my mouth and potentially taste the poop. It was awful. I needed to get out. And that's when I realized that I would rather work with the kids themselves than with their poop. So, now is the time when I want to address all the young women in the room, okay? So this event is meant to inspire young ladies like yourself to feel comfortable and empowered to go into fields like science and technology. And sometimes, as a woman, you're told you have to accept whatever is right in front of you, and I want to tell you that's ridiculous. If you try to do everything that's thrown your way and pour yourself into everything, you're going to find out that there's some things that you don't like, and you don't have to just take it. If you're not happy, talk to someone, take back control of your life, and move on and learn from that experience. And so that's what I did. I talked to my lab manager about how I felt, and she was very responsive, and she recommended that I try clinical research instead of wet lab research. That way I'd be working with people. I didn't even know that was a thing at that point, but it was great. And that's when I decided to switch majors. MCB just wasn't for me. I'm more of a people person, so I did neuroscience and cognitive science. And like Jory was saying, I worked in 4 different labs because the next lab I went into was the child cognition lab. I worked there for a year before I realized, that's really not for me either. I'm more interested in kids who are atypically developing. And so finally, my junior year, I ended up in the memory development and disorders lab. And I had the amazing opportunity to work with kids with Down syndrome, kids with autism, and kids who were born preterm. So the March of Dimes made its way back into my life again. And I also had the incredible opportunity, and this is the 4th lab, to spend 3 months in Australia conducting research, neuroimaging research with kids who were born preterm down under. So it was really, really, really amazing. And I just wanted to stress the point that this only happened because I realized that I wasn't satisfied, realized I didn't have to put up with that, and tried to change that path. So that's a little peek of how I got here, but these are all academic things. And I'm not going to say that academic things aren't important, because they definitely are, but at the end of the day, what's most important is your happiness and well-being. And so finally, I wanted to talk about how resilience has played a huge part in my life as it relates to who I am as a person. My motto in life, as Jory said, is to be relentlessly optimistic. And for you doubters out there, optimism is not the same thing as naivety. And I'm well aware of the fact that life can kind of suck sometimes, and it's really good at kicking you when you're already down. So what do you do in those situations? Well, I'm a big proponent of talking about your problems, but not everyone is. And sometimes, even if you are, somehow everyone you know is busy at the same time, and you have no one to talk to. So now is when I want to introduce you to a word I came up with my freshman year of undergrad. It's SAFIH. It's spelled SAFIH, and it's an acronym that stands for Super Awesome Fundamentally Improbable Happenstance. And it's for all those times that life hands you something that is just too crazy to be a coincidence. I have a problem with the word coincidence. I feel like it's kind of dismissive. It's always encumbered with the word just, and I don't know, sometimes things are more special than that. Now, SAFIHs can be anything. It's up to you to decide. And in this way, you're basically just looking for all the tiny quirks in life, and you create your own happiness. There's a psychology professor at Harvard named Dr. Daniel Gilbert who has another term for this, and it's called synthetic happiness. For whatever reason, society feels like happiness is something you have to find on accident, but that's just not true. He conducted an experiment where he invited undergraduates into his lab, and he showed them 6 Monet paintings. And he had the undergraduates rank the paintings in order from their most favorite to their least favorite. Then he told them that they could take home either their 3rd or 4th favorite painting, and almost unanimously everyone took the 3rd favorite painting. And then 2 weeks later, he called them back in the lab and had them reorder the paintings. unanimously. There was no exceptions to this. The first painting stayed first, the last painting stayed last, but the third painting, the one that they took home, jumped up a spot in their ranking, and the fourth painting jumped down a spot. That's making the best out of a situation. That's making your own happiness. And what's crazy is he repeated the same experiment with retrograde amnesiacs. And so basically he had the same setup, except instead of having them take the painting home, he walked out of the room for 30 minutes. They forgot the encounter ever happened. And then he came back in, and the same pattern emerged. The third painting jumped up, and the fourth painting jumped down a spot. That means we are hardwired to be happy. Now, all we have to do is acknowledge those tiny little quirks in life that can cause happiness. And these things can be really, really little. Even if it's just you laughing at yourself because you notice the clock and it's 11:11, well, you are still laughing, even if it's at yourself. So I want to leave you guys with this. For all the high schoolers in the room, you're at an incredible point in your life where so many things are changing. So many things are going to go amazingly, and so many things are not going to go the way you want them to. And at the end of the day, what makes you a better person is how you react to everything that's going on. And you want to be resilient. You want to make the best out of every single situation that you're presented with. And you have the opportunity to do so. And I'm so excited for you guys because the world is your oyster and you can do whatever you want with it as long as you don't give up and you are resilient. So thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Louise Olescu and I'm a junior at Paradise Valley High School. I am here to present our next speaker. She is a self-taught IT specialist from former Yugoslavia. She got inspired to do IT and dove in headfirst knowing absolutely nothing about it. She is currently the IT tech specialist for our very own Paradise Valley School District. I am honored to introduce Blagica Jovanovic, and please give her a warm welcome.
Good evening. Well, first, thank you for coming, and especially thank you, my IT family. I just want to share my story, my life story with you for a couple of minutes, and I hope you're going to enjoy it. I came as a refugee from ex-Yugoslavia after a long and brutal war. For those who don't know, there was a civil war. And there was no way to escape, so we went through bombing, hunger, fear, moving from place to place. After a decade of suffering, we made a decision to come to the United States. I had only one goal, to have my kids real good life, education, and to live somewhere where it doesn't matter where you come from, what religion you practice, and it just doesn't matter who you are at all. It was a long process, interviews, and finally we have been approved. Here is where we started new life, coming to unknown. We don't know how to speak English, different culture altogether. It was really, really hard. On our way from Zagreb, Croatia, I bought big fat dictionary. I remember my husband is looking at me thinking, oh my God, she lost her mind. She's spending all our money that we had, which was very little, on dictionary, and we don't have a food, milk, diapers for kids, etc. But I'm thinking, what good this little money is going to do for me if I can't even ask for anything? We arrived sometimes after midnight to find out that we have only one bedroom apartment with old, dirty mattress against the wall. Disappointed, yes, but it's okay. New day might be better. Days are going by, and I was hoping that somebody will enroll my kid into school. Well, not happening. They probably had schedule because there are so many people to manage, but I couldn't wait any longer. Showed up in a closest school with my son, papers, and of course the dictionary. Embarrassed, yes, but it was done. That was my first moment. Or in our first week when we arrived, my husband got really, really sick in the middle of the night. He was in unbearable pain. No phone, and I don't know even my address at this point. Went out to payphone, remember those? And dialed 911. Someone answered, and I just kept line open. Sure enough, emergency arrived, and my tears went down from mixed feelings, very bad for my husband, but so happy that someone is helping. Another problem solved, another moment, and I can start breathe now. Pretty soon our social security cards arrived and we started to work. My husband in construction company and I was hired as housekeeper in a hotel. I worked very, very hard, but as weeks go by, I never had chance to say anything in English but word housekeeping. After 2 months, I'm not a very patient person. Some of you might know. I started in another hotel. Well, don't know language, there was no choice. That's all. But this time I worked in a laundry room, hoping with so many people around, I'll pick up some language, and I was right. Every day, and I was first to start on that big press machine. Thankfully, no one liked it, so I have no problem with it. As I am on one side and one lady on the other, conversation starts. I guess she had so much fun talking to me, and I don't think so she ever realized how much she helped me. After a while, I found out that there is some government program for refugees to take 6 months course, like learning English, computers, and etc. I didn't use computer in my life. I didn't even know how to turn that on. I just knew wherever I go, there was that little machine that does everything. At least I thought it does everything. So I decided to take half-day English, half-day computers. By this time, we were saving every penny we could. And again, I had idea how to spend that money. Invested in computer, printer, got Cox, and purchased Mavis Beacon Typing Teacher CD. At that time, any normal job required typing 40 words per minute. Every night, after all is done, dinner is done, kids in the bed, I start practice typing. I remember night I reached goal of 40 words per minute. Oh my God, I could hug whole world. Another moment, another goal reached. Now it's time to look for another job. Tough. Had one nice suit and shoes just for that purpose to make myself presentable. One interview after another, no luck. One morning I'm sitting and turning kind of paper pages, and I just saw that one school district is having job fair. Again, same suit, shoes, and go. Took typing, but you have to acknowledge mistake, take it as a learning lesson, own it, and do all you can to fix it. Worked as a library assistant, but I was very interested how things are working in a computer lab. And every spare moment I would use to learn a thing or two. 2 years later, tech position was open and I applied for a job. I remember my heart was pounding. It's not just what if I don't get a job. It was more about me being able to answer questions and not to make a fool of myself. Well, my name was called, walked in, placed folder in front of each person, sat down, hoping for the best. Interview went well, and I got job. During that time, I learned a lot, made so many mistakes along the way, but happiness when I figure out something, when I help student or teacher, when I make someone's life a little easier, even if it's just for a moment, it overpowers all those mistakes I made along the way. And if I can help someone to achieve that hook moment, I think I did good, another day not wasted. Recently we moved, so I got a job here and became part of Paradise Valley Unified School District family. And I would like to finish with a couple of words for our girls. Please start thinking about becoming part of technology world. Think about it as helping others. I remember when I came to United States, there was payphone that helped me call 911. There was computer with CD drive that helped me achieve my goal of 40 words per minute and helped me to have a job and learn. When I arrived, I could talk to my family only once in a while, but someone came with smartphones, with apps, Skype was good, so I could see them, and that's help. On the other side, as I mentioned, things are not going to go smoothly, and they shouldn't. How else we would learn? But most important is to stay focused. It might happen that you fail so many times until you reach your goal, but guess what counts? That one time that you succeed. At the end, I wanted our girls to ask themselves, what is that stopping me from getting involved in technology? If only I had what you have today, computers, smartphones, iPads, tablets, all programs to enroll in, all tools in support are there. All you have to do is just to make decision to get involved. And you might think it's guys' thing. No, it is not. If I could make it from where I was to where I'm here right now, with all obstacles I had to overcome, there is no reason for you having all you need and all opportunities to not at least start thinking about making career in technology. It is a challenge. It is a fun. It's not boring, but sometimes might look like it, just looking at that screen. But guess what? Through that screen and technology, you can help people. And women do, and they have to help people. And at the end, please do not let anyone to tell you that you cannot do it. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Emily Brown. Sorry, my allergies are really bad. I'm a senior at Horizon High School, and tonight I am here to introduce Janice Mack. She is the teacher on assignment at Wildfire and Whispering Wind Elementary Schools. In this position, her focus is on supporting teachers and students, and her goal is to have students feel that coming to school every day matters and makes a positive impact in their lives. In addition to this position, she was appointed to the State Board of Education by the governor and has served since 2016. Janice has studied 8 languages, taught internationally, and is currently pursuing her doctorate in STEM education. She enjoys hiking and exploring Arizona with her husband and 2 children, and is especially fond of the Mogollon Rim area. One of her greatest highlights in her career as an educator was being recognized for her work in mentoring young women in computer science as the recipient of the National Center for Women in Information Technology Educator Award, and receiving it alongside 2 of her former students, Daisy and Riley, who both received the NC WIT Aspirations in Computing Award. Please welcome Janice Mack, the advocate.
Computing has transformed the way we do business, the way we think about our personal information, exploring space, the way we think about our health, read books, listen to music, and the way we socialize, right? And yet, it's the computer science is a subject that only 1 in 4 schools teach. And when you think about the question is, why is that the case? I venture to say that computer science has an image problem. When I asked my students to draw a picture of what they thought a computer scientist looked like, more often than not, they drew a boy with acne, long hair, pulled back in a ponytail, sitting at a stark table with a large computer facing him, a light bulb, single light bulb above his head hanging from a wire, sitting in a dark room with a caption that actually said this: "This is a computer scientist coding from the deep confines of his mother's basement." So I had this same image. That is until I had a 3rd grade student come up to me and ask me a question. As a teacher, and I was surprised when Victoria initially told me, "Your word is advocate." And I was like, "Really? I'm a teacher." She said, and when I thought about it more, I said, that's exactly what I am. I advocate for my students each and every day. And so when I had a 3rd grade student come up to me and ask me, "How do I make a website?" And by making a website, he didn't mean go to Google and hit create and new. He meant programming a website. And so I really was like, wow, this was like a moment I had in my career where I was like, kids are thinking very differently than I ever imagined, and I need to be teaching differently. And it challenged my notion of what a computer scientist was. So could 3rd graders really program their own websites? Could they be a computer scientist? Well, I reached out to our director of IT, Jeff Billings, and we set out to explore this. Sure enough, they could. They were using HTML within days. They were adding structure to their content. They were adding paragraphs, making headers, and it was like simple for them. But I think most of all, the most significant thing was they had crossed this chasm. They had gone from just being consumers of technologies to experience and tasting what it meant to be a producer or a creator of technology. They were experienced and firsthand what this meant. And one of my students wrote this on her blog. She said, this is a 3rd grader. She said, "I just started coding, and it's like a whole new world. It's amazing because you get to almost go into someone else's brain and teach them based on how they think. I learned that computers are actually pretty dumb, but the people who program them can make them do almost anything. It really involves skill, though. It's not just some game you get addicted to. It's the student and you're the teacher. It even helped me think of how I can learn because the computer's mistakes seem hilariously dumb, but that's only because I'm smarter. Now I know that if you learn how someone else thinks, you can show them almost exactly how you think." A 3rd grader wrote this. Think about how powerful that is. I mean, that is incredible. So this caused me to really ask a question. Why should I be teaching, or why should I need or want to teach computer science? And then I realized the really important thing about coding is the computational thinking behind it. As Steve Jobs once said, everyone should learn how to program a computer because it teaches you how to think. So I realized it's about my students being creative problem solvers, where they identify a problem, analyze it, decompose it, abstract a solution, create an algorithm for it, and come up with a computational solution, whether it be in the form of an app, a program, or a robotic program. It's about our students living in this time where they need to learn about how the internet works and their smartphone works as much as they need to learn about anatomy or photosynthesis. It's about them inventing the very future in which they are going to live. So like when I had my middle school students, I had them identify a real-world problem, I had them research it, and then design and create an app that would solve or address that problem. They came up with all sorts of apps. One of them was to help combat childhood obesity and encourage a more active lifestyle. Another one inspired their friends to make the world a cleaner, greener place. But then along the way, while I was fully engaged in this process of bringing computer science to my students, I had another realization. That representation matters. As I looked at my class of middle school students, 37 of them, and only 3 of them girls, I saw that half the population was self-selecting their way out of this field that leads to some of the highest paying jobs. Not only so, we can't have just half the population designing solutions that are going to impact the entire population. And this really hit home when one of the 3 girls enrolled in my classes. It was the 2nd day of the semester, and I heard over the loudspeaker, "Mrs. Mack, come to the front office, please." And I'm like, oh my goodness, it's the 2nd day of the semester, what did I do? So I go to the office, and there is one of my 8th grade girls in the office in tears with her mom sitting there, and she wanted to drop my class. And when I talked to her and I said, well, why, I listened to her, and it turns out she had this fear. Even before she started touching the computer, doing anything, she had a fear that everybody, all the boys in there were already way ahead of her and advanced and beyond, and she would never be able to catch up. So of course I talked to her, calmed her down, and assured her everything was gonna be fine. So we kept going through the semester, and I really thought about this. I thought, what could I do? So I started a Girls Who Code Club, and I worked with a community volunteer to raise awareness of equity issues in computer science, inspiring girls to make, code, and create. In the classroom, to address all these different learning needs and where they were, I ditched uniformity. I created open-ended pathways for my students and provided them with choice in what they could explore. Some of them did block-based programming, Google CS First. Others did enrolled in online science courses from, computer science courses from Stanford University. Others were exploring data with the programming language R, and others were doing robotics. What I realized I needed was I needed my students to have a very different image of computer science than I had. I needed them to have one that nurtured their desire for personal expression, for creativity, for authentic choice, and for creating solutions for social good. I got my confirmation when at the end of the semester, I asked my students to draw a picture of a computer scientist. This time, I had a student draw a picture of a girl riding a bike, kind of flying through the air, her ponytail flying in the wind. She was wearing a biking helmet, and she had a superhero cape on. And along with that, a caption that said, "This is a computer scientist, a superhero coding to save the world." And that girl who was crying in the office, and somewhere around the mid-semester, she said, "Mrs. Mack, it's so embarrassing. My mom is posting my projects on Facebook and telling everyone that I made and coded these projects. And she's like, I told my mom it's really no big deal." So it's just amazing what we just need to teach differently and really focus on that fact that representation does matter. So here we are, 2017 in Arizona. Here we are by the numbers. 9,667 open computing jobs with an average salary of over $85,000. 546 computer science graduates in 2015, but only 15% were female. We had 438 high school students in Arizona who took the AP Computer Science exam in 2016. Only 23% were female. 67 of those underrepresented minorities. Only 31 schools in Arizona with even offered computer science in 2015 and 16. What does this mean? It implies that we need all teachers to be integrating computer science into the fabric of what we teach. Like an art teacher I know at Campobello who believes so passionately in the critical role that computer science is going to play in the role of her students that she's taught up to 17 classes of code in 1 week, integrating coding and art. Or like a team of middle school teachers who I know right around the corner from here who've integrated computer science into science by having their students create computational models and simulations of ecosystems. There's an African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So that's what we did. To tackle these issues, we just created this CS task force in the state. So it's an incredible team of computer science champions with people from the State Department, State Board of Ed, Governor's Office, all 3 public state universities, nonprofits, K-12 districts throughout the state, all working together to advance computer science for all through policies, partnerships, and state planning, so that computer science for all can really be a reality. What does computer science for all really mean? It implies that there's equity and access to computer science for every student, in every school, every district, for students of every background, and not just the ones who teachers or parents believe can learn it. CS for all implies that it's a core literacy. It's just as crucial as reading, writing, or math. It implies that we have to have a new way and approach to teaching computer science because what we've been doing has not worked and not given us the results we need to see. So as a task force, we're tackling this. We want to create a generation of students and young people who can critically engage in public discussion on computer science. We want them to develop into learners, users, and creators of computer science knowledge and artifacts. And we need them to better understand the role of computing in the world around them. and we need them to perform and express themselves in subjects and other interests. So, as a task force working together, we are redefining computer science. We are guiding it from being a subject for just the fortunate few to an opportunity for all. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sophie Liebrook, and I am a junior here at Horizon High School. Tonight, I have the honor of introducing Jennifer Carlson, who is the director of Women Who Code. Women Who Code is a wonderful organization that helps women get into technology-based jobs by connecting with companies all over the Valley. Their ultimate goal is to build the field of women in tech. Please give a round of applause to the very determined Jennifer Carlson.
Wow, some incredible ladies talking tonight. I gotta tell you guys, my story's not quite as glamorous, but it is packed with determination. And it didn't start that long ago, about 4.5 years ago. You guys seen the movie Legally Blonde? Do you remember that one where that girl just wakes up one day and decides she wants to be a lawyer? That's pretty much what happened with me in technology. 4.5 years ago, I was sitting at home and I was holding my baby girl and I was looking at her and I thought, I need a job where I can spend most of my time with her, where I can make good money so that I can give her the life that I want to give her. I want to take her on vacations, and I want something that I can feel really good about. So I started thinking, what is that? And I was like, well, you know, those computer people make pretty good money, and you know, you can work on your computer anywhere, so that's it. I'm going to be a computer person. And that was my decision, and I was determined to make that happen. So step one, right? What do? First step. I laugh at this now because I was an English major in college, and instead of going to the computer, my instinct said, go to the bookstore and get a book. So I did. I went to Barnes & Noble, and I went to the computer section, and I started looking, and don't know what that is, don't know what that is, don't know what that is. I mean, it was very intimidating just looking at these books. There's, you know, Ruby, what am I mining here? Python, I don't like snakes. So I'm trying to figure out what I want to do. I'm like, well, everybody's using their phones these days. I have a phone. I have an Apple phone. Maybe I'll look at Apple apps. So I went and I found a book for building Apple apps. And I pulled down this 8,000-page, 50-pound book. And I looked at the author, and it was The Big Nerd Ranch. So I was like, all right, I'm probably heading the right direction here. And I took this huge book home. And the first time I put my daughter down for a nap after that, I opened up the book and started reading page 1. Like, all right, got through that, you know, feeling pretty good. And I kept going, getting through page 2 and 3, and you know, she'd go down for naps and I'd read some more. And eventually I actually got on the computer too, which was pretty cool. I had to start out by installing some software to actually even write code on, and that in itself was a daunting task to me at the time. I had to keep my determination. I was keeping my mind focused on this job that I wanted. So I kept going, and it was hard to gauge my progress. I just felt like there was so much I didn't know. And one day my mom comes over, and she said, what are you reading? And I showed her, and she started laughing. And I was like, what? And she said, what is this? What is this? I don't know what any of this means. And I took a moment there. I was like, wow, it wasn't very long ago when I had no idea what that meant, you know? And now I'm looking at this page of code, and I know exactly what it means. It's like, all right, I'm making progress here. It's good to remember, instead of always focusing on all the stuff I have yet to learn, to remember how much I've actually learned at this point. So I said, all right, it's time to make the next step. And the next step for me was finding other people that were learning the same language as I was. And I had so many questions to ask them. Now, you can only so much I could do by reading this book and taking some classes online. And so I searched, and there was a group here in the Phoenix area that were iOS developers. So I was like, all right, I'm going. You know, I got in my car, I drove across town, and I was nervous, but also excited. And I walk into the room, and it's full of men. And I thinking, all right, that's okay, I can still do this. And I take one step in the door, and the guy standing at the front of the class says, "Are you from American Express?" And I said, "No, I'm here to learn about iOS development." He goes, "Oh, okay, well, because we've had some people from American Express come here, and they were trying to hire us, and you sure don't look like a nerd." And to my absolute amazement, I was totally insulted. I was thinking, what? I don't look like a nerd? I'll show you what a nerd looks like. So that just fueled my determination. I was ready to go now. I wasn't leaving this class. And I kept going, and this group of guys actually turned out to be really awesome and really smart and really good resources. But I kept getting better, and I got to the point where I was building apps on my own. I was able to put them on my phone to test them, and I decided to build one for my daughter. And she's about 2.5 at this time, and it was a pretty simple app. I had 3 tabs on it. In the first tab, she could type in her name and hit enter, and then her name would go all over the screen. And the second one was circles, and if she shook the phone, they turned different colors. Not a good app for a 2.5-year-old if you don't want your phone thrown everywhere. And then there was a third tab that had some simple addition on it. And I handed it to her, and I watched her play with it, and she was smiling, and she was loving it, and it was such a cool moment for me. I thought, man, I need to share this with other women and other moms. And so I was like, all right, where are the tech girls? So I started searching for that, and I was looking, and I could not find a group in the Phoenix area of women developers. What I did find is an organization called Women Who Code out of San Francisco. And their mission was to get more women in the tech field, to create environments where women can learn together, where they can network, and they reach out to tech communities. I'm like, all right, that sounds good. So I called them, and I said, hey, you guys need to come down to Phoenix, because this is exactly what we need. And she said, great, here's an application. I was like, what? And she had me fill out this application, and then she said, all right, we're going to do a video interview with you, which totally scared me. I had never done a video interview before. I'm thinking, great, these are some super tech gals, and I'm not even going to be able to get online here. And then the other thing is I was working at my kitchen table, so I was like, I've got to set up some kind of background so it looks like I'm in an office here. But the call went great, and she was an awesome lady, and I just spoke from my heart and talked about what I had hoped for women of Phoenix. And she said, all right, you go. Like, okay. So I went. And I started calling different tech companies in the community, and I said, hey, this is what I want to do. And my first bite was with Infusionsoft in Chandler, and they said, we'd love to host a kickoff event for you. So I said, great. And they had some female programmers there, and we had an event, and a couple people showed up, and a couple people joined my group. It wasn't just me anymore. And then I had ASU agreed to do an event for us, and some of those ladies joined, and then GoDaddy, and then month after month, and here we are. It's about 2.5 years later, and we have 675 plus members. We're still doing events every month, trying to encourage more females to get into the field of technology and giving them a place to meet and to learn about the awesome companies, the awesome tech companies. We have a lot here in the Valley, and they are all looking for more female developers. So I am getting constant opportunities for jobs for these members too, which is really, really exciting. And I just want that to grow. In my professional life, I continued to work on my apps at home, and I continued to grow and work my way up, and I now am a software developer for a company called Star West Tech. We have an Apple app that is used by firefighters all over the Phoenix Valley, and Scottsdale Fire is one of them. If you call 911 for a medical emergency, a firefighter will show up with an iPad and be using the software that I get to work on every day, which is just so cool to me. I actually get to ride along on fire trucks and see our software in use, and I get to be creative and think of different tools that we can build to help these awesome men and women save lives. Our software has been used, it's been used in a lot of major events. It's used in the Phoenix Open every year. We've had it at the Super Bowl with Glendale Fire. It was just at the Final Four, and every concert and sporting event you can imagine that we have here in town, they're using that software. So I'm here to tell you that if I can do this and I can have the determination to get through all the things that I got through and kept going, you guys can too. If you take anything away from this, I used all those moments where I had the big feelings. I know that we were talking about this with passion and some of the other words that we had up here. Those big moments where you think, that's the job I want, or hey, I can actually do this, or where somebody says, you're not right for this. You just harness those feelings and drive it into determination to get what you want. So stay strong, ladies. Thank you for having me.
All right, our young ladies are going to come and set up some chairs for our speakers to come up, and we are going to take questions from the audience. You can direct them to a single lady if you would like to, or just to the panel in general. But while they're setting up, I want to take a moment to thank a few people. I'd like to first thank Horizon High School for having us here this evening. All of the ladies for being here and sharing their real life stories with all of us. We're privileged to hear them. And of course, to all of these young ladies and student ambassadors that have been here to help us today. So, yeah, give it up for them. I am going to invite our real life women from the IT world back on up. And we can count too. We got the right number of chairs up here. All right. Do we have any questions or anything that you want any of the women to expand upon? All right. We have a question over here.
Hi. Hi, my name's Hayden, and first of all, I want to say what a huge inspiration as a girl who is taking AP Computer Science right now and studying up for the AP Computer Science exam, which is this coming Tuesday. Very, very stressful. It's really huge to hear that computer science has been, or needs a face change, it needs a facelift, it needs a makeover. So I wanted to first thank you for that. And second, one of my biggest passions is to get involved with education, creativity, and bringing this creative education and technology to other kids like me or other students around the world. And I have many dreams about that. But did you have any moments where it was, and I know that Britton, you talked about your moment of this is it, like this is what I want to do. I feel like I've had some of those moments as well, even though I'm only 16. Do you have any advice for someone like me to start something like a club for coding or a creative education campaign or something like that?
Anyone want to take it? Britton does? Okay, I'm going to pass it to you.
Thanks for the question. I think one of the most amazing things about the time that we live in right now is your ability to connect with other people. So putting the word out is the first step. Just saying, hey, I think this is awesome. Does anybody else think this is awesome? Usually you're going to find a group of people that feel the same way that you do about a topic or something like, creative, being creative with technology. And that's the first step. And then it snowballs. Because if you find other people that are just as passionate as you are about what you're talking about, then you find you all get together and just like, this is the coolest thing ever, and everybody just needs to know about it, so let's just tell everybody. And so having the ability now with technology to connect that community is amazing. And if you feel like you're not expanding your network enough, talk to other people, because the people that you're talking to may not be the ones that are as passionate as you are, but they'll say, oh my gosh, my friend Mary is totally into this too, and you should talk to her. So just keep talking about it. Put it out there on the internet, talk to your friends, talk to your family, talk to your entire network. And the next thing you know, you're gonna have a group of people that are all just as excited as you are to start something.
Hi, I'm Louise Lesko. I'm in Hayden Araza's computer science class, and that's my teacher right there, Miss Kaiser. Right there. So my question is, Miss Mack, you were saying that people in computer science make over $85,000 a year in a regular field. Can you earn that much money in education or no? I know, but like, no, there's people like speech and language pathologists, like they make a lot of money for the district, but like, do you think that's why there's a lack as well for teaching computer science due to the lack of pay?
I think like with any job, there's a range. So yeah, I think it's definitely included in the range.
Thanks.
Hi, can you hear me? I can't hear me. Can you? Okay. Yeah, I'm Jeff Billings, the IT director. I'm that old man that Shivani referenced. My question, you know, I see two challenges from my perspective, and I'm curious, any one of you who might have an idea here. One is the challenge at the secondary level, and I think it was Hayden over there who said it needs a facelift, an image problem. I think there's something to that. But it's the competition of all the other curriculum, all the other classes, all the universities needing to accept it, you know, this, that, and the other. Do you have any ideas how to crack the secondary market, specifically the high school market? What are we doing wrong there? Is it really just a facelift thing? Because I'll get my face out of it if that's what it is. Any ideas, thoughts?
So your question is, what is high school's education doing wrong with teaching computer science? So what helps is having teachers who have always been in that industry or currently getting involved in that. I know it's really hard for software developers to get out of that industry and teach just because they've had a very good salary and don't want to get that cut because teachers do not get paid that well. So they just don't want to get that pay cut in their check. That's a struggle. So I can see that maybe that's not what's attracting high school students. But a thing to overcome that is actually having more software developers, web developers come into your community and start projects or provide internships for students, because the students will never get actual work experience if the doors aren't open for them. So if just having like a greater connection with the industry and the school and bringing the school to the industry and vice versa, that really helps out because the students get to see firsthand how this works, what a software developer does, where they work, what they do, what they impact.
So I think for high schoolers, it's a really unique challenge. I think for elementary and middle schools, they're looking at it all the time. They're getting exposure, and they're much more willing to take that in and learn. High schoolers, I do think that there's a PR problem when we think about high school age students. My son, who's 24, just recently taught himself how to code. He was not someone I thought would ever code in his entire life. This is someone who was perfectly happy with C's, didn't really want to do more than what was necessary, came out to Arizona State for school, got through about half of it, and then decided, this just isn't for me. And then he got a job at Groupon in sales. And he started realizing that the job that he was doing could actually be automated in a lot of ways, sending out emails to customers, just lots of touch points. And he was like, wait, I think I can automate this. And he literally solved the problem for himself by just teaching himself how to code because it was going to save him time and he could work less. Proud mom moment. But because he taught himself how to code, he then got a product job at Groupon with no degree. I think for high school students specifically, it is changing that mindset about understanding what computer science actually is and does. And so much of that is about exposure. So I definitely agree with your idea of having people who code and what they do for a living come in and talk about it. I mean, listening to, forgive me, Jennifer, I believe, right? Jennifer talk about the app that she creates that helps firemen and firewomen do an amazing job and help them do that better. And that's the way that she's able actually not only to code, but serve her community better. So continuing to understand how coding helps the world in different ways is going to change their mindset about what that really means. And then physically getting your hands on it. Because frankly, coding sounds like this amazing thing that for someone my age anyway, sounds like something that you do in the basement, but I know better now only because I've talked with people that do it. And that exposure is the most important thing.
Coding also happens at kitchen tables, not just in basements. But to answer your question also about there is definitely there's an image that we need to get rid of. I mean, that's not just at the high school level. That's going, I'm working with women, trying to get them into careers and trying to get more women out in the tech field. And we're still at, about 12% of the jobs out there. So I think maybe exposing some of the high school girls to women that are happy and successful in these careers and love it, and showing them that it's not just a man's world, and that there is plenty of opportunity, and anything that you have passion for, you can relate to technology as well, and it'll come up in your field whether you like it or not. But just showing them that there are other women out there succeeding in the career and really enjoying it too.
So I think the secondary question is something I know we've been grappling with as a task force. I think number one is making computer science count is obviously going to provide a huge incentive for high schools to offer it. Just offering it, as you could tell from the statistics I shared, is half the battle. If only 31 high schools in Arizona are even teaching computer science AP at this point. But the other flip side of it is you can teach it, but then how do you teach it well? And I've recently come across several stories where, they're kids of computer scientists, that are in the field, and they're like, it was taught horribly. So that's the other flip side of it. So how do we teach it in a way that is going to engage and really gain the ones that the ones in the field? Google has done extensive research in computer science, in particular with gender and equity, and some of their research has really found that with women in particular, we know it works. We know that early exposure works. Women are 8 to 9 times more likely to study computer science if they've had exposure to it in high school. So we know for sure. And what are some of those things that Google found really works? It's mentoring, as Jennifer was mentioning, and community, having somebody to follow them along the way, and then but those mentoring and community is really important. So I think things like that, like what we're doing here, but a lot of it sometimes at the policy level and then translating it to practice.
All right, I have one final question for our panel. If you could summarize, sort of maybe in 1 or 2 sentences, where do we start? So, as experts and women and professionals in computer science, where do we begin? Where do we start? Do we pick up a book? Do we talk? So I'd love if we could pass the mic down and just sort of leave with one last sort of call to action for our audience.
So I would say I went about it wrong. I would say not to go to a book, and I also would say not to start with Objective-C. I think the first step is finding out what's your goal. Do you want to have a job in this? Are you just interested in doing a certain project? So I think step 1 is figuring out what your ultimate goal is. And then step 2 is creating easy, manageable steps along the way. So, reading that first page, even though it was out of a book and a big, huge, fat book, reading that first page made me feel like I actually did something. So creating manageable, easy steps and working towards an ultimate goal.
Okay, I would say that communication would be the key for success. If you start with finding some friends and share a word that you're interested in, and you find people they are really interested in same things that you are, I think that success will come easier if you create a group of people, or let's say team, that you can share your opinions, share your experiences, and path to the success would be much easier.
I kind of have to tailgate off of that. When I was in Australia doing research, I had to teach myself Python, and it was awful. I had 0 experience with coding before that. And I think the thing that helped me get through that was reaching out and asking for help from people. If we are able to foster and build these communities that can support women in technology, we will have resources then that you can turn to for help, because you're not alone and you don't have to figure it out on your own. And it's amazing if you can pick up a book and figure it out, but you don't have to. And so ask people for help. I think that's my advice.
I think 2 words for me is listen and lean. So one is listen to everybody around you, listen to their ideas. Like for me, it was a 3rd grade student that got me started on this journey. And since then, I've just been listening to all kinds of people. And lean, it means to lean into different communities. So asking for help, seeking out those people that can be your support system. And like I said, go together to go far.
I would say always search for what you want. Have a clear end goal. If it's not that clear, that's okay. As developers, you will be Googling a lot of stuff. So it's okay to Google, type in, how do I do this? And there are so many results that you'll get, and you'll know where to start. There's steps, local communities, public libraries, your teachers, your robotics club, if you have a robotics club, online, W3 Schools, code.org. There are so many resources out there. Just pick a website and start playing with it.
So I have advice on both sides. If you are in technology today, male or female, some STEM field, mentor someone. Make yourself available to the women in your world so they know what you do. It's so important because that exposure is the very first step for them to understand what's even out there. When you are a young person, someone on the panel said, I didn't even know that job existed. When you're young, you don't have a clue of all the roles that are out there. So simply by being available, making yourself available, and giving that exposure to young women is going to help. And for the young women, if you have an inclination in any field, find the person that does it and reach out to them. There is no harm at all in reaching out. All you have to do is send them an email, call them, write them a letter, whatever it is. If you have an interest in anything, find the person that does it. And they will tell you what their day is like, because you may have some glamorous idea of what it's like to be a lawyer. And then you find out that it's not like Law and Order.
Same thing on the STEM side. You may have some glamorous ideal of what it's like to be a researcher, and then you're mixing poop. But there could be a research field that really does speak to you. So find the people that are doing the roles that you think you might be interested, talk to them, learn as much as you can. And remember, it is a journey, not a destination.